With us tonight, Tim Seymour, Karen Feinerman, Courtney Garcia, and Mike Coe. We start off with the markets. A big week. The S&P 500 climbing more than 5% and up 5 days in a row. The index is now less than 3% from its record high. Tech, a key driver. Big move since Monday in Nvidia, Tesla, Dell, and more. There were a number of bullish drivers for stocks this week. The U.S. and China, for one, agreeing to temporarily delay tariffs by 90 days. Inflation data coming in softer than anticipated. And Goldman Sachs lowering its recession odds to 35%, while Barclays dismissed them altogether. But a downbeat consumer sentiment report out today could be a troubling warning sign. University of Michigan survey posting its second worst reading on record. Tariff and inflation fears weighing down the mood of respondents. So with the next batch of data expected to show prices rising and inflation too, is this the best it's going to be for this market? Tim, what do you think?
Well, I think the inflation data is going to be as murky as the now less than recessionary calls coming from Wall Street all over the place. We went from everyone starting to raise the ante on recession to now being, well, we're less clear on recession than we were. It's the same thing with inflation. And we've been talking, I think, rightly about hard data versus soft data. The soft data sentiment-wise doesn't look so good. And if you look at the University of Michigan sentiment this morning, long-term inflation expectations are at their highest since 1991. But there was a lot of other good news. I know Courtney's got a positive view on inflation, and we'll talk about that, too. I just think that this was the week where you just really have no idea. And that includes even listening to Walmart, who said, you know what, we're going to start passing this through, even though, we can wait a little bit and we're going to control prices. So, but equities are responding to the worst of trade news behind us. And in fact, it's so funny. Like if we'd never had Liberation Day and if we had never had all the trade anxiety and rancor, would we be lower than we are on some level by just removing it and dropping these things? We talk about this all the time with companies. It's like, they're getting beat up by the same news over and over again. We're rallying now on the fact, is every trade deal going to be a rally point? So U.S. and EU with some pretty good news coming out of where we're going to be. I don't know, but I do think the White House is bringing good news, not bad right now.
Well, I agree with that. Good news, not bad. And, big, high-profile deals in the Middle East and all of that. But I do think a market that's down 20% and up 25% is flat, but it is not the same as flat, right? I think that there is some damage to not just consumer confidence, CEOs' confidence, right? How do you run a business? Great, you averted this first disaster. But it's hard to think, well, there's no chance of it coming back. Mm-hmm. There has to be some chance of it coming back, or in some maybe lesser form, but still not a good form. So I think that the rhetoric with China, that was clearly a good thing. If one believes, and it seems like most market participants believe, even if we get to the 90 days with no deal, we're just going to roll it over and it'll still be fine. I think, though, I agree with Tim, the data, I don't know what to make of the data. It's really murky. It's hard to know. Have any of the significant tariffs gone through yet?
No.
None.
No.
Right. So
May, June, July, those are going to be the tests.
July
of the
17th
hard
or
data.
what is July? No, I guess it's July, whatever.
Next month
18th.
we will start seeing more of the impact.
But then you had all that front running.
Right.
Yeah. And then so I do think also we'll see no guidance still. Mm-hmm. Why would you?
Right.
Why do you even need to?
Right. And also, by the way, 35% tariff is still very high.
Yeah.
It still
affects a higher
right. If we just
prices will still be higher.
Yeah. No Liberation Day, 35%. There we are. That's the deal. You're like, oh, wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, right, exactly. That is a lot.
Yeah, and that's clearly what's weighing on all the soft data right now. When you're looking at consumer sentiment data, the amount of times that people mention tariffs have significantly increased because everybody's saying, okay, maybe inflation's coming down, but once these tariffs kick in, that could affect inflation later. So people's expectations of inflation are continuing to rise right now. What's interesting is this was the second lowest reading on consumer sentiment. The worst of it, you would think was a really bad time, like a 2008, a 2001. It wasn't. It was actually 2022. It was actually the lowest reading on consumer sentiment. And that did not turn into that self-fulfilling prophecy where everybody stopped spending and it didn't cause a recession. So it's not to say that this can't always happen. And I just haven't seen it translate into the hard data. You are seeing inflation coming down. You're seeing GDP numbers are strong. Earnings are strong. So until that actually translates, I don't actually think that will necessarily become the self-fulfilling prophecy everybody's so worried about.
Isn't it just a matter of time before it translates? I'm not trying trying to like rain on your parade because I'm glad you're bringing this more positive spin to this whole thing.
She's sitting in the silver lining chair.
I know, exactly.
So.
But it is
Someone's
just
gotta
a
do it.
matter of time before that pulled forward inventory runs out, which a lot of people said may already, and tariffed inventory gets on the shelves, and Walmart is going to start passing on the cost to consumers. I mean, it's just a matter of time before inflation goes higher.
It can be. That's the concern, right? So that's what people are trying to weigh out. Is there a higher risk of a recession if these tariffs go through and that does cause more inflation? Yes. But also, if it isn't as bad as people expect, or if some of these businesses are able to absorb some of it, which what we talked about yesterday is Walmart may be able to absorb more of this than they are saying. So I think that's the question is what actually goes through. I think people are pricing in a worst case scenario than may actually come to fruition. That's the real question.
Mike, where do you stand? Are you Mr. Silver Linings tonight?
Well, look, I mean, we've made it through some pretty key technical levels, I think, where I actually expected the market could have bumped its head. So the fact that we're, approaching basically those all-time highs, I have a feeling we're probably going to test those, as a matter of fact. So I think we probably could go a little bit further. As for Walmart, I mean, obviously they are going to have some sensitivity if we don't really get big movement on some of the products that they're going to be affected by on the tariff front. But they are principally a grocer, right? So we're looking at 59% of their revenues are on the grocery side. So I'm not really that concerned about Walmart on that front. The valuation is a little bit troubling as far as Walmart's concerned at 33 plus times forward. But, the tariffs, I think they're sort of trying to talk to us about what that impact is going to be. And I don't know that they're trying to blow it up too much, but I think that it's one of those things that the C-suite can do to try to talk to the administration from the side and say, hey, this is really going to affect us. And, maybe they'll get to see some additional movement. We've seen that there's some flexibility there, and I think that's what a lot of CEOs are hoping for.
I think that's a great point on the levels, but we've also made the point in the past where the market swings to extremes. So maybe that low that we saw was an extreme low, and maybe here we do have some upside from here, but how much more?
Yeah, and I guess getting back to our inflation conversation, remember, COVID was an excuse for a lot of companies to raise prices, too. I mean, there was real strain within supply chain. But I think you kind of have an excuse if you're a company in raising prices here, too. And I think companies are going to probably have to fight that urge to raise prices if they all can do it.